edition of Celtics Roundtable here on the Boston Celtics newsfeed. Matt Ignal here, joined by Jared Weiss and the return of Jonathan Levy. He's moving soon, but he's going to be back full time. He promised me.
Yep, full time, every day.
Every day.
Twice a day is the new thing. Actually, morning and night, we're going to do a podcast. It's going to be great.
Well, we are just
beyond increase listenership.
We are beyond thrilled to have you here. We are powered by CLNS Media and Simple Contacts. I'm also happy to have Jared Weiss here because he is a Celtics insider. He knows more about what's going on with the Celtics than us schlubs, Jonathan. But the Celtics 4-game slide, nice bounce back win against the Clippers. Jared, you see the game at a higher level than we do.
Wouldn't go that far, but I appreciate it.
What went wrong for Boston in that 4-game slide? When I look at it, only the Orlando game really sticks out to me as one where they truly played poorly. But what's your take on this?
And in that Orlando game, it was mostly the second half. They just fell off a cliff at halftime. I mean, Marcus Smart's been smashing bottles in the locker room or something like that. Who knows? But the big issue was that they weren't getting good dribble penetration up until really last game they didn't penetrate at all. But Lakers, they did a little bit better job. But they were so dependent on Kyrie to get to the paint. Stevens, one of the things that he was making a point of, something that I noticed that I figured was just me being biased or confirmation biased, was that they were doing a lot of side-to-side dribbling, which is good, but at a certain point you have to actually go into you have to penetrate through the three-point line and try to actually push the ball towards the hoop so that you can actually collapse the defense instead of them just switching back and forth. And they just weren't doing that well. And so I think they finally kind of broke through that in the last couple games. They've been playing much better. Obviously, they played great in the Wednesday game against the Clippers. That was one of their best performances of the year, and especially with the context of not having Horford and Smart, definitely holds true there. They're really trying to push Jalen and Jayson to start to initiate more offense now, and we're starting to see that, especially with Horford out. We saw a ton of that in the Wednesday game against the Clippers. Tatum took the most shots of his career, 16 shots, which is a lot. I mean, that's if you're taking 15 shots, that means that you're like probably like the second option of the offense. So he was playing like a second option level player, and he was making good plays. He was driving and kicking very nicely. He showed a lot of comfort in just knowing what to expect when he would drive and kick. He hit some amazing layups, but he's really going to be effective when he doesn't have to take those shots because he's able to get 2 feet into the paint, and then all of a sudden he's able to throw it to the guy in the corner who gets a wide open shot. And they missed a few of those, but his assist numbers weren't that great, but I thought that was one of his best playmaking performances. But so I would say that for one, they played better in transition in the last 2 games compared to those first 3 at home where they were really terrible. Horford had said after the game that they felt like they were letting their opponent outpace them and push them to play at a higher pace than they want to. And it's funny because there's always been so much talk about you want to play at a higher pace. And I think that makes sense for the second unit because the second unit usually doesn't have quite as many offensive playmakers. And that's especially Rozier, who is he's starting to turn into an absolute animal in transition. And he's been amazing. Yeah,
you pointed out that in and out move that he had going full speed, and he got to the line on that one. Yeah, his improvement's been remarkable there. Keep going.
It's really hard to make that move without committing a palming violation, and he managed to do that, so that was really impressive. He kept his stride. He didn't fumble it. He was fumbling those handles earlier this year, last year. He's making a lot of strides, and I think he's poised to have a really big second half. But so they're finding a much better balance right now. They're playing more in control of themselves. That usually just starts with just getting stops and defensive rebounds, and they did a much better job of that in these last few games. So they just look more like the normal Boston Celtics. And it was important to see that they were able to really almost everything in their game plan worked against the Clippers. And that's really crucial because they don't have Horford. Horford, his real value is if your game plan's not working, he can kind of coordinate the offense. And they were able to do it without him out there. So I thought that was a really valuable win for them.
I agree. Levy, you're on the West Coast here. You had the opportunity to stay up and watch these games. What have you noticed from the Celtics, and how do you think they righted the ship?
They righted the ship by being better than the Clippers, ultimately, right? They're still a great team, even if you remove a guy like Al Horford, who's clearly an important player and an important cog in the machine, without question, both offensively and defensively. But the Celtics truly have been playing with fire all season, in my opinion, right? They go up double digits, they go down double digits, they can't keep a lead, teams can't keep the lead against them. It feels like almost sort of random that they happen to have as many wins as they do. Whenever the clock happens to stop, who's ahead now? Oh, okay, the Celtics were ahead again this time. How lucky for us. I don't know. I feel like the Celtics have a lot of very obvious weaknesses, even though they're the best defensive team in the league. And when Kyrie is playing, they're one of the best offensive teams in the league as well. They still have some pretty obvious holes. Taking step-back threes with the guy in your face with 16 seconds on the shot clock for no bloody reason when your name is Marcus Smart, I mean, that is very frustrating. And it showed up especially in the Lakers game, throughout the game actually, but at the end of the game where he had Rozier open, and rather than do anything, he did the Marcus Smart, what he always does when there's like 6 seconds left in the shot clock and he gets the ball, he just puts his head down and he's never passing the ball again. He's like, I'm allowed to shoot it now. I know no one's going to complain if I shoot it now. And he dribbles around and he takes a contested three and usually misses it. So he did that again, except there was 6 seconds left in the game and he had a wide open guy. And he just forced it up anyway. When everyone else on the floor's name isn't Marcus Smart, and that means they're not the worst shooter from three of all time. So I'm sort of shocked that this is allowed to continue. And although the guy obviously is a great player in other ways and does bring things to the table, how is it? I know it's a contract year for him, but how is it that he's allowed to continue to do this? I don't even blame him anymore. I'm past that. I don't understand why Brad Stevens allows this. The game would be less ugly, and I think the Celtics would have less periods where they play ugly ball for like 6 or 7 minutes when the second unit is out there and no one can score on either side. The other team can't score because our defense is so damn good with Marcus, with Rozier, with Tice, with everybody. But then we can't score either because Smart takes all the frickin' shots. I guess Marcus Morris does once in a while too. But it's just tough to watch. So to me, I feel like the Celtics could actually be significantly better than they are right now with the same personnel. If someone could get it in Marcus Smart's head that he's not the number 2 option on this team, like you guys were saying, 15 field goals or 16 field goals attempts is like a number 2 option. Smart takes that many shots on the regular. I think it's a real problem, and I don't blame him anymore. It's been too many years. Now I just blame the coach.
Wow. Strong words there, man.
I've been waiting a long time to get this out, guys.
So as far as the last play of the game is concerned from the Laker game, I put out 3 tweets. Most people only responded to the first one, so most people didn't understand what I was trying to say. He actually, by the time that he passed half court and couldn't give it to Rozier anymore, I thought he made the only play that he could. However, after he grabbed the rebound, KCP clogged that lane to Rozier, so he couldn't make that pass. He took one dribble, got by him, and then Rozier was screaming for the ball. He should have passed it to him, obviously. He made that mistake because I think you're making a good point there that Marcus sometimes gets tunnel vision when he gets under 5 seconds left in a possession. And he's kind of supposed to, right? Because he's a point guard, he's a scorer. So, like, you expect him that he should be trying to make a move. But if you're actually a good point guard, let me rephrase that. The good point guards in the game, because he actually is a good point guard in many ways, the good point guards in the game, like Kyrie, they can be 5 seconds left, and they can be trying to like hustle to find a shot for themselves, but they're still able to make that pass if it arrives. And he didn't do it with Rozier, and he does sometimes late in the shot clock get stuck in that. But I think most players get stuck in that 5 seconds left, it's time for me to put down a few moves and try to find a shot. Most guys that end up with the ball at that point of the game, if they're not like a big who can't put the ball on the floor, they're going to go for that shot. The problem is Marcus is not a good perimeter shooter, so it sticks out more with him. But, I mean, when they had Solinger here a couple years ago, which feels like 3 lifetimes ago, they were saying the exact same thing of what they're saying with Marcus, even now, more so last year, but even now, that the team is saying, if you're open, shoot it, the shots are going to fall eventually. Solinger was actually like a solid shooter for his position, and it just went really poorly for him for the most part in the NBA with his shooting touch. But he was a capable shooter, and in theory should have been hitting those. Olynyk, I feel like at some point people were kind of frustrated with Olynyk shooting early in his career. He's one of the best shooters at his position and got paid a lot of money because of it. So you have to be committed to that principle of just like instilling that confidence in guys to take that shot and dealing with the misses early on so that eventually we get those makes. It hasn't been happening with Marcus, and I think last year we saw some positive progress. This year, I think December he shot like 38-ish% from 3, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, that was good. But it has kind of fallen off since. He's probably always going to be a really erratic shooter, probably never get to the point where he'll actually be like a good enough shooter to, I mean, the big thing is that he's not going to be getting paid huge money this offseason at this rate because the market for a good shooter is really, really hard. And, we saw Andre Roberson got $10 million to stay with OKC, a team who really wanted to keep him. Now, Smart's a way better offensive player than Roberson is. Roberson is actually, I think, statistically the worst shooter in basketball, and he doesn't really do anything else besides making good off-ball cuts. He's like Avery Bradley if Avery Bradley couldn't dribble the ball or shoot the ball. But he's an incredible defender like Smart is, and so they were willing to pay him $10 million. Smart probably can get a few million more than that, but he's not going to touch like what Gary Harris got this offseason because Harris is such a good offensive player, and he's a very good defensive player as well.
I got to tell you, I don't think that if Smart's making, significantly more than $10 million, I just don't feel that the Celtics are going to try and keep him, especially if that Lakers pick conveys. I don't know. It just seems unlikely to me. I think 10 sounds like about the right number to me.
They were higher than that during the negotiations this offseason. They didn't.
I
couldn't
imagine.
make a deal, but they were over 10. So.
Yeah, I mean, has he? I feel like that number's probably got to go down without. I mean, he's probably having his best year of his career, but he hasn't sort of made the leap that we've kind of been waiting for over the past few years.
Also, he's going to be a restricted free agent, and there's going to restricted free agents. The market for those is essentially nil. Like, look at Nerlens Noel. Not that it has to be just like that, but it's going to be. It's like a frosty market, and no one's got cap space next year either. Really, very few teams are going to have it. So I'd be surprised. I really do not expect Marcus Smart to be making over $9 million, let alone 10 next year. Personally.
It will be interesting because, from what I heard, the Celtics were over that number, and they weren't negotiating in a market environment. So the market environment, even if it's a horrible market for restricted free agents, it is still an open market, which means competitive bidding, which means that you have to outbid somebody. And for all of Smart's issues and his market maybe being a little lower than he wants it to be, he's still a player that almost every team in the NBA would like to have. And I'm sure Sacramento will probably do a George Hill level contract with him now that they're about to get off of George Hill's money when they trade him to Cleveland later this week, most likely. So we'll see what happens there. Boston is lucky in that they don't have to negotiate against a huge market where there's huge opportunities for Marcus to thrive somewhere else. It's not like the role is going to be that much better for him on another team. He's a closer on the best team in the Eastern Conference right now, or I should say highest record in the Eastern Conference right now. Toronto's the best team, but that's a pretty he knows that he's competing for titles for years here. He's gonna have to get a ton more money, or a team telling him we're gonna recalibrate your brain to make you a great 3-point shooter, and we're gonna pay you $25 million. Unless he has something like that, I don't think he's gonna leave Boston.
Okay,
you should definitely make someone planning to make him a good 3-point shooter and paying him $25 million. You should accept that deal right away. It's like when Scalabrine got offered a deal with the Nets, and the GM of the Celtics was like, "You should take that deal. That's amazing. Take it right now." It's like, go take any extra money you can get, because I don't know how Smart's ever gonna. I mean, it's year 4 of the Smart train, right? I mean, he's not getting better as a 3-point shooter. He's at 29.
Oh, you never know.
He's a career 29.3. This is it. This is who he is. Maybe one day he'll improve, but I have no reason to believe that,
okay,
guys.
Fair enough. I mean, it could happen, but you're probably right. I think you're right betting on that. But the real safe bet here is Simple Contacts, the convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of contacts from anywhere in minutes. It's vision care simplified. If you need to renew your prescription, you just take a 5-minute vision test from your phone or computer. It's reviewed by a licensed doctor, and you receive a renewed 1-year prescription, and you can just reorder your contacts that way. Obviously, it's super convenient because you can do it from anywhere. No more doctor's offices or waiting rooms. It just takes less than 5 minutes. It's much faster than making an appointment, going to an eye doctor, and taking time off, etc. Super reliable. You have plenty of choice with all the brands of lenses, including options for astigmatism or multifocal lenses, colored contacts, and more. The vision test is only $20. Compare that to an annual appointment, which without insurance could cost you over $200. The lens prices are unbeatable, and there's standard shipping, which is free. As I mentioned, super convenient. And we have a special offer here just for our listeners. Just go get $30 off your contacts at simplecontacts.com/CelticsNews or enter the code CelticsNews at checkout. Once again, get $30 off your contacts at simplecontacts.com/CelticsNews or go to Celtics News at checkout. This isn't a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam, but it is the simplest, easiest way to get your contacts renewed. All right, Matt Ignal here, joined by the poker player Jonathan Levy and Celtics insider Jared Weiss. Levy, I'll give this one to you. We got an insider here. What do you want to know about the Celtics?
I mean, I got lots of things on my mind, dude. I'll tell you right now. Okay, I'm concerned about Jaylen Brown. I know you just talked about Jaylen Brown. This is gonna be quick, but I'm concerned about his true upside comparatively to Jayson Tatum and the other guys. So, when we're talking about, what are we going to do if we get another wing, if we get a number 2 pick and take Donich, something like that. I feel like Jaylen Brown, he's good, but I don't know that he's ever going to be a top 5 player at his position. Well, I feel like Jayson Tatum's got a shot to be a top 10 player in the league. Okay. So to me, that makes Jaylen Brown more tradable and less important, although obviously a key cog and a key part of the future, but also much easier to move on from either. Like, I expect he's going to be better than Avery Bradley ultimately became, but right. But
he's
I don't know if he's going to be a lot better. Yeah, he's not too far away from that now, right?
I think he's going to. And Avery, I mean, this year's been a little up and down, but like the last few years, he's been a good NBA starter and the lead on-ball defender. Jaylen is not quite as good as Avery was last year at this point, but he's not that far off, and he's only in the second season. So, like, I mean, he's really young. So, I mean, he's going to be getting there and more so. And he's on a better team, I think, at this point, when has less responsibility to be a playmaking ball handler than Avery did. So I think it's going to make things even easier for him. I would agree that I think Tatum projects further than Jaylen does at this point. But Jaylen also serves that really crucial need as well. And you have to figure, I mean, if you're choosing between the two in a vacuum, and even for this team, you're choosing Tatum. But if you're considering bringing in Michael Porter Jr., who probably is pretty similar to Jayson in a lot of ways, then there's that question there is like, if you had to move one of them, would you rather keep a guy that's more complementary to Michael Porter Jr., or would you rather just have two of those similar types of players and just have, I don't know, like 4 guys that can score 25 points a game? I mean, it's
Army of wings, man.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how the Warriors are going down eventually.
What we're talking about right now is so ridiculous.
Yeah,
the idea that they could basically have just like 4 all-star wings with an all-star big and an all-star point guard. I mean, it is ridiculous, and they could just do that. Yeah. And there's no rush for them. I mean, they're probably going to do what they've been doing, which is just continue to draft these guys and try to hit home runs in the draft, which they've hit a home run with all the draft picks, almost with like every single pick since they started with Smart, which I know people seem to not think was a great draft pick, but if you go back and look at that draft, they chose him over Randall, which was probably the right decision there. I mean, Randall's good, but all the guys that were picked after that, you have to go like 8 picks or something like that to find like an actual good NBA rotation player, let alone a guy that's like a key finishing player on a title.
They should have taken Jokic 6, I think.
And what did Jokic go? 40?
41, I want to say.
22, I think.
Yeah. Something like that. With regard to Jaylen and like Jayson looks like he's on the trajectory to be a star. With Jaylen, you know, maybe he could get there. He's got a fair amount of creativity, I feel like, with his handle. It's just a little sloppy right now. But, you know, it's going to take, you know, year over year type of improvement for him to eventually probably get to the level where he's going to be a star. But, you know, with his work ethic and the rate that he's improved thus far in his career, essentially going from a huge negative, you know, by, you know, all sorts of advanced metrics to a huge positive this year, it's really remarkable. So, you know, you can't rule it out with him. And I think you mentioned it earlier. I think he complements Jayson Tatum really well. And the Celtics said it when they were drafting Tatum, that they really think that the two of them can really grow together. I want to talk a little bit more about Tatum before we wrap up. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Let me just quickly make this analogy, which is what I've always tried to make with Jaylen. Reminds me of Andre Iguodala in so many ways. People complained about him when he was in Philly because Iguodala couldn't put them over the top. But he was still clearly an all-star, just had some limitations, wasn't quite the guy that put him over the top. Then he goes to Golden State and he wins Finals MVP. So, and obviously there was a lot of reasons why he won Finals MVP, but whatever. He was amazing in that series. So I think that's the role that you're looking for with Jaylen. Jaylen is the 4th or 5th best player on a title-winning team who probably wins Finals MVP because their star point guard has to miss a game or 2 or something like that. Right.
So, with Jayson, you kind of brought this up earlier, like the first unit maybe playing like too fast. I think we saw a lot of times, especially in like that Philly game, I want to say, where they were really struggling for offense. Tatum would just kind of put his head down and, you know, drive into 2 defenders and would like invariably like lose the ball out of bounds, which happened like an enormous amount of times in like a short span. You know, people were talking about, oh, you know, maybe he's hit the rookie wall here. Maybe it's the newborn. Maybe it's that dislocated pinky that he suffered a few weeks ago, or maybe, you know, this is just him kind of coming down to earth a little bit. But I think we saw a renewed sense of aggressiveness against the Clippers, which was really refreshing. Maybe he took a page out of Kuzma's book. Watch it torch the Celtics in the 4th quarter. Where does he go from here? How does he get to become more consistent and perhaps, I'm asking a lot here, really become more aggressive, I guess, in the first quarters? How can the Celtics get him more involved in the offense here so that he can really, you know, show, you know, what he's got? Because he's got a lot.
Well, being more consistent is directly correlates with being more aggressive. It's that when your shot isn't falling because you have a dislocated pinky and because you sleep 4 hours a night because your baby's screaming, that's when just attacking the lane and just sucking into defense and playmaking, that's what allows you to continue to be good when your shot's not falling. And that's why all the best players, except for like maybe 5 guys in the league, their game revolves around them driving into the paint and making plays there. There's very few guys in the league that their entire game revolves around shooting. So he coasted off of early in the – I shouldn't say coast. He was getting by earlier in the year off of being a guy that worked from the elbows, would either take the shot or attack the closeout. Now defenses are game planning for him a little bit more, and those looks aren't there as much, and he's not shooting as well, so he's got to find other ways to make himself effective. And one of the plays that I singled out was in, I think it was the Clipper game, I believe, where he came down, he got the rebound, came down in transition. That was good right there because he's showing he's getting the rebound, not looking for the point guard. He's bringing it down himself. That is one of the ways of being aggressive isn't just like, trying to like drive into traffic every single play. It's just about if you have the opportunity to take initiative, you're taking it. Mm-hmm. And he took the initiative there. He dropped it. I can't remember if Kyrie was in the game. Obviously, it's one of the factors there, but he kicked it ahead to Jaylen, who got a post up and drew a triple team for some effing reason. And Jaylen kicks it through a bad kick out to Jayson. By the time the ball was coming to Jayson, and some people on Twitter were saying, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal." Sure, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a good play, and it's good to point out because this is like the basic NBA stuff that makes you a good player if you do this 20 times a game as opposed to 3 times a game. So catches the pass. By the time he catches the pass, he's moving his left foot so he can drive around the defender that's closing out on him, and he's going to get into the paint. He knows he has 2 dribbles, and he knows that, I want to say Marcus Morris was open in the weak side corner, so he gets right around his defender as soon as he catches that bad pass, never looks at the guy in the corner, takes 2 dribbles, sees DeAndre Jordan committing, and sees the guy that's supposed to be guarding the guy in the corner who had come over initially to double on the Jaylen, sees that they're both preoccupied with him, and he goes up, and right when he's about to go for the shot, throws a pass not even looking, right on the money. And that's the kind of stuff that's like didn't require a ton of exertion as opposed to doing a double crossover that's really cool to a pull-up or trying to pull off a really crazy reaching, a hook shot over DeAndre Jordan. That was just like a good, simple play that advances the offense, allows the ball to keep moving and find wide-open shots. That's what good playmaking is. And people love all the exciting stuff that he's doing, but I'm more interested in some of the just basic, regular, minutia offense stuff that he's doing. And he's doing that way more on a regular basis than he was earlier in the year. And he's doing it from different positions on the court. It's not just the weak side elbow, which is where he was operating from for the most part. So he's also fighting on the boards. He's not just flying in from the weak side corner to get boards. He's like going down there and actually battling for boards more now, which is another good sign. But so I think all the little filler parts of his game are starting to kind of catch up to the great skills that he has as well. And now he has more of a linear skill set that's looking a lot better. So his numbers may not be as great as they were a little while ago, but I think he is starting to play better all around.
All right. The Celtics take on the Warriors Saturday at 8:30. I don't think they've lost an Oracle in quite some time, it seems. Jonathan Levy, the betting man, who you going with?
I'm going to take the world champion Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry to say, guys. I know they always play well against them, although Avery Bradley ain't here no more. He's not walking through that door, and he's the guy who always seems to shut those dudes down. The Warriors are just too good.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. How do you feel about the Celtics, chances of competing with the Warriors maybe a couple of years down the road?
I feel great about it, actually.
Yeah.
They got the opportunity to add another young piece. If Jaylen makes another big step forward, if Jayson does too, this is great. The Cavs are imploding right before our eyes. It seems as though Brad Stevens not only is a great coach, I know he's putting him down at the beginning of this show a little bit, but Danny Ainge is able to take advantage of the fact that Brad Stevens is so good, he makes mediocre players look better than they are. So you can trade a guy like Jay Crowder apparently to Cleveland, and maybe even Isaiah Thomas, and these guys suddenly, they make Cleveland worse. It's an amazing, beautiful thing. And we see this actually over and over, maybe not in Avery Bradley's case, but with so many other players. I'm thinking of Jordan Crawford, where this has happened. I don't know. It's a beautiful thing. I absolutely think 2 years down the line, this team could really be there and be legit, especially if the Warriors are in salary cap hell and have to move a guy like Klay Thompson, or Klay decides he doesn't want to be a part of this anymore, wants to go off and make his money and have his own team, which both seem possible to me. So, yeah, I think it's totally reasonable.
All right. You heard it here first. I'm just kidding. All right, that'll do it here on this edition of Celtics Roundtable here on the Boston Celtics newsfeed. I want to thank my guests, Jared Weiss and Jonathan Levy, for joining me. Jared, you can always find his work at the Celtics Wire on USA Today. And what's your Twitter handle? Jared Weiss NBA. I remember that.
There we go.
Go give him a follow there. If you like this show, hit the like button and subscribe to CLNS Media. If you prefer to check us out on the go, you can always subscribe to the Boston Celtics newsfeed, available on your favorite podcast app, or just download the CLNS Media mobile app. Follow us on Twitter at CLNS Roundtable for all our stuff. We'll be back next week, probably with that Monday mailbag. Sam Sheehan will be cracking jokes, I'm sure of it. So I want to thank you all for tuning into this edition, and we'll see you next time.